This is the famous Dr. Frank of the super famous Mr. T Experience, and you're listening to Balls from Ellwood.
Hey now, cats, we're back again this week with the Balls from Ellwood show, and with me I have a very, very special guest, somebody that I have loved and admired practically my whole life growing up, one of my favorite bands. He is, in fact, the lead singer. He writes. He is an author. There isn't too much this guy doesn't do. Would you like to say hello to the audience, Dr. Frank?
Well, hey, audience, how are you?
But as I was saying, Mr. T Experience has always been one of my favorite bands growing up. And, for my audience, I know all about you cats, but I would like to kind of go back in time a little bit and explain to them, hey, where did you grow up at? Like, how did the band come into fruition?
Well, I am a San Francisco native, one of the few I know, in fact. And then in my later childhood, I moved down, what they say, down the peninsula to a suburb called Millbrae, and that's where I grew up. And I was introduced to punk rock via college radio, which I used to listen to. It was hard to tune in on my little radio, but that was my contact with the outside world. I turned 13 in 1977, so a lot was going on to be interested in, and basically the radio was my friend. But I fooled around with trying to have, a little band in the suburbs, but nothing really happened with it. And then I went to the University of California to go to college. That's how I went to the East Bay, and then that kind of dabbling around with rock and roll music took on a bit more of a public form, and my band started doing things. Unfortunately, the punk rock that I had loved as a 13-year-old with the radio was no longer anything anybody was interested in. It was several years later. We're talking, 1984. So I had a band that no one was interested in, but I felt that I would sort of work as hard as I could at cramming it down people's throats and basically just do it anyway. And then, 30-something years have passed, and I didn't ram it down as many throats as maybe I would have liked to, but there are a lot of throats that got rammed. We put out lots of records, we did lots of shows, and we're still actually playing. So not a lot of people can say that, and at times I wish I was one of those guys that made $1 million in a punk rock band. Didn't get the $1 million, but like I said, some throats were rammed, and I'm still standing.
Well, my throat is definitely one you rammed, and I have to say, I think it's more. I honestly think it's more important. I'm sure you would love to have the $1 million, but I think your music is way more important otherwise. I mean, I've always grown up, and I've always, I've always had a connection to you cats, and I've always loved your music. And I mean, your lyrics always kind of like paint a picture in my mind, and it's always like something that I can relate to. Like it's almost like a soundtrack, to my, to people's life essentially. I mean, there's a lot of songs about relationships and girls and breakups and things like that. I mean, I think that's something that everybody can relate to. I mean. That being said, I mean, when you were growing up, I mean, did you have a strong relationship with your parents? Did they support, like, your punk rock, vision?
No. I wouldn't say that I didn't have a relationship with my parents, but, many people, especially at that time, my whole life was not punk rock. I was interested in lots of different things. The thing it seemed exciting was this punk thing when I was a adolescent, and of course it was notorious then. It was scary and dangerous, and my parents, in their own benign way, tried to discourage it, and never quite understood it, I don't think, which is fair enough. If you're going to embark on teenage rebellion, having your parents support you is sort of undercut the couple of the legs of that rebellion. So it was good. It was good to be disliked by one's parents if you were mounting a rebellion, but it wasn't that severe or extreme. I think, like most things, my parents, as everybody else in my life, with just about everything I've ever done, they just sort of hung back and that it would blow over.
I mean, you had mentioned the edginess of it, like it was the kind of scary. I mean, is that exactly what drew you into the punk scene? Like just the the danger of it, or the edginess, or what is? Can you put like your finger on one particular thing that actually drew you into the scene?
I mean, it was from the safety of my suburban bunk bed, mediated by a radio speaker. So the literal danger was very low. But the thing that I liked about it was, well, partly it was the obscurity. I was the only person I knew who was interested in this stuff. No one in my high school even knew what it was. And so that's sort of, the best kind of elitism, when it's only a club of only one member. And everybody else is, you're not in my club. That's what you do when everybody, you flip the script on it. But the thing that I liked about it, in contrast to what everybody else seemed to like, is that it was very energetic, and it was very to the point and succinct. And the people who were doing it were relying on just have an idea and we're making it happen, rather than some more abstruse artistic or musical ambition. It was just very immediate. And, that's the essence of rock and roll in a lot of ways, and that's why, why rock and roll is interesting to people, and it certainly was to me. And, so if you're listening to the radio and you hear, the Ramones or the Dead Boys or the Stooges or what have you, and then you compare it to what everybody that I knew in high school was listening to, which was Boston and Steve Miller and that sort of Foreigner and that sort of thing. There's no compare. There's just one side of that is just really cool and interesting, and the other side of it is not so cool and interesting. Even though now, as a mature adult, I've found things to love about Steve Miller, at least, and Boston.
So your taste has grown musically?
Oh, well, yeah. I mean, the thing is, what did I know? What did I or anybody in 1977 as a 13-year-old know of Steve Miller? It was just those three songs. But then, you as you get older and you start doing, I became a sort of semi-artistic record collecting guy, and there was a huge catalog before that, and he did really interesting things. He was an oddball, just like the oddballs I admired and the oddball I kind of had ambitions to grow into be. There's a lot of prejudice about it. But the fact is that when you're scanning things on the radio and you just hear, the Clash for the first time, that's pretty exciting when you're innocent and naive. And so that's what I looked for. But anyway, the question is, was it the danger that attracted me? Certainly, I've always been the sort of person who, my instinct is to shy from conflict. I like to hide in a tiny, cool, dark place away from prying eyes. That's my first choice. But you don't often have that choice, and then having something that's kind of pummeling through your brain can help. The danger was actually kind of an extension. As time went on, was sort of an extension of the usual, picked on kid growing up things, where you just be sort of hassled by everybody. Well, once you get identified as, hey, punk rock, hey, Devo, that's what, hey, Devo, then, you get chased by the mean kids, and they throw rocks at you and stuff like that, and that just sort of deepens your antisocial tendencies and your hatred of humanity.
I had a similar upbringing. I totally can relate to that. Let me ask you this, Dr. Frank. In this age of punk, do you think musicians, especially punk musicians, have a responsibility to have a social or political message in their music anymore? Do you still think that's important in punk music?
Per se, no, I don't. In fact, that as a requirement, I think is quite silly. the point of any music, I'm not, whatever punk means, which I can't even really tell you what it means, but it's no different from anything else. If you're, songs are the most important thing, and the most important thing about a song is that it is interesting and well composed so that it communicates what you want it to communicate. And I think if it through that point too, it can communicate something to an audience that is very important and magical. And the topic almost doesn't matter as long as it does that well. But it's very very hard as a dumb teenager to condense sophisticated and persuasive political argument into a 2-minute pop song. And there's a reason it's hard. Maybe it can't even be done. Maybe there are protest songs that are good, can be done perhaps. But, I think it's way more important to write about, to sing about, to play about things that you really have directly experienced, that you have something to say about, that you possibly stand a chance of getting across. And so, no, I don't think there's a requirement. I think that some people are good at certain things, and sometimes those develop into something really, really great, and those are the writers we like and the bands we like. And if you're just following some kind of step-by-step cookie-cutter rules to here's how to write a punk song, my friend. Back when I was in just before my band started and during my band started, but the way that they did that was, what they call the Reagan song, and the Reagan bands, all the songs without Reagan or El Salvador or something like that. It's not like there wasn't something to say about that. It's just that it's, not the easiest thing to do something interesting with such a kind of well-trodden topic. I just question whether that's the best way to approach. I think the best songs are the songs where you have the songwriter who is addressing important topics in their life, or by extension, sort of applying compositional strategy and acumen to a fictional view of somebody else's life, that sort of thing. It's the same criteria that make novels interesting or that make movies interesting. If you already know what it's going to say, it's not interesting.
That's a good point. I mean, that being said, what do you think about the current state of punk rock, and do you feel the music in the scene has changed since you were younger as to now?
Well, it certainly has changed. Going back to 1977, I don't know about a scene really. But I don't pay that much attention to the scene. I mean, I've got a legacy act, and I pay attention to what I need to pay attention to get the beast moving, to play the few shows we play, and to organize the activity that I can organize. And it's too bad that doesn't, possibly too bad that doesn't mean sort of devoting a significant amount of time to make a point of checking out the pulse of the city or what's going on in the scene or whatever. But it's just not something I tend to do. I think, someone will, if I'll see a band because we play with them, that's almost the only time I ever see any bands that is good or interesting, or someone directs me to a song that is interesting to me, then of course I will appreciate it and like it. But I don't, beyond that I can't say, and I don't think that the scene, in quotes, is all that important, if it even exists now. But who knows? That could rise from the ashes. I mean, there are many indications that rock and roll has finally breathed its last after 70 years of 70-ish years of existence, and maybe that's true, but maybe there'll be a rock and roll revival, and if so, I'd be very interested to see what it looks like.
Yeah, I would too. I mean, one thing I've noticed, I mean, I grew up in the quote-unquote scene, and I mean, I think, like, when I was younger, I've noticed, like, people were kind of more, like, there was more camaraderie and stuff. Like, we just recently went to a show, and, people don't seem like they're trying to, help you up from if you fall anymore, or, like, try to, like, watch out to, like, not hurt you. Like, I if anything, that's probably the thing I've noticed. I mean, it's kind of a bummer, but, I mean, I don't know about...
I believe that. I think that kind of, that's a reflection of a general, more general situation in our current phase of social interaction. There's not a lot of empathy and kindness. It sounds corny to say it, but there isn't. If you look in practically every social situation, it's just characterized by sort of hostility and viciousness and kind of willful ignorance of other people and their concerns. And I suppose, why should a rock show be different? But that said, I've always felt that, contrary to the cultivated impression that the marketing of it certainly created in the beginning, and that a lot of people have made a point of bearing out. The nicest people you will meet are people in punk bands, and that goes all the way back to when I first started interacting with them. I don't know why. Maybe there's a down-to-earth quality that breeds a bit of sincerity, although there are always exceptions. But I feel like, of all of just thinking of the musicians that I've met, the ones who are most genuine and seem to put on they don't, less likely to put on airs and such, have been in the little punk bands, and that makes it quite a bit more pleasant to do things like, not that it's always pleasant, but so there's that maybe is the saving grace. I do know what you're talking about.
Yeah, I guess maybe the scene hasn't changed. Maybe just people have changed. I mean, I just am not sure.
I guess that's kind of what I was getting at. Yeah.
Well, I actually have kind of a funny one for you. Like, I hope you don't mind. Have you ever encountered any groupies?
Sure. Although the reality, as it turns out, is in case of many situations, is always a bit more complex than the myth. But yes, you could say so.
Oh, that's great. Usually most people interview, they're like, yeah, no, that's never happened to me. So, like, I appreciate your candidness. Okay, here's one. Have you ever heard like a fan's interpretation of one of your songs, and then you're in your mind go, no, they have it all wrong? Like, has that ever happened?
That's an interesting question. I mean, because I'm trying to think of a good example. I think here's the thing that happens that I've noticed generally, because I'm able to have advantage of this over time. I will sometimes encounter these fans of my songs and of my band that come on board when they're very young, and then as they grow older, I will often hear the story of, they will tell me that they didn't get what was going on until later. When I was 14, I thought this, now I think this. And I take that as kind of a compliment, because, as quite a compliment, because that they're, at minimum, it means that there's something there to be mistaken about and to think about, which is good, which is what I kind of try to do. There's certain you can sometimes, as a quote artist, you can be too clever and too I don't want to say sophisticated, or you can be too complex for the attention span of your audience. So there are some songs where I tried very hard to do a certain thing that completely is missed, and then yet the song is loved anyway. And probably the best example of that is a song that I wrote in the mid-'90s called Deep Deep Down, which is basically a murder ballad. It was a conscious attempt to say, what would happen if I tried to write a murder ballad, and I did. It was based on a case that happened when I was in college, and where a girl was murdered by and buried in the gully by a guy who turned out to be her boyfriend, who had led the search for her. That kind of general sort of situation, loosely based on that. So anyway, what it is the narrator has murdered his lover and is singing a song to her before he runs away to try to hide. And it plays with a lot of things, like most of that type of song does. But most of the people who were audiences, who made up the audience of my band at that time, they didn't know what a murder ballad was. They weren't accustomed to thinking of songs that way. And so many people took it as a straightforward, passionate love song.
Oh, wow.
Without anything, any darkness or any metaphor at all. So, okay, fine. Then, as time went on, there was a sort of a rumor that gathered shape that, hey, this song is actually about a murder. And then some people were bitterly angry about it because, they wanted to have that song played at their wedding. They had lyrics tattooed on them. Then they find out this thing that is, and then sometimes the rumor really goes off the rails. It's like, yeah, this is about the time that Dr. Frank killed a person. So it becomes a very potentially alarming sometimes. But it's fascinating to watch. I mean, most people don't have a hostile reaction. They just look at that and say, that's something very interesting. I've played at a couple of, sometimes this is a weird thing that happens when you're a guy like me, is that sometimes people who grew up with my music will try to organize my coming to their wedding and playing a couple of songs, something like that. It's usually too complicated to get the whole band to do it, but sometimes solo it can be arranged. And in a couple of different cases, they really wanted that song. They wanted to hear that song at their wedding, and I had to say no, the topic of the song. And in both cases, they said they didn't know, and they came back to me and said, "Yeah, that's fine." So I just don't want to curse your wedding with this. I don't know what I don't know what the result of those particular marriages were. Hoping they're going strong, but so people have different reactions. I don't know if that answers your question, but it's probably the most interesting interpretation and story about one of my songs that I can think of right now.
Oh, absolutely, but that's great. I love it. That's a pisser of a story for sure. I mean, hey, Dr. Frank, what I'd like to know is, how do you prepare for a gig? Is there anything that you have to do, or is there anything that is something that makes you more comfortable? Or what is the preparation before you play somewhere?
Well, I just kind of feel like if we can organize it so that everybody shows up before the time, we're way ahead of the game. So I'll just feel relieved if nothing goes wrong, basically. A couple of beers, maybe a nice whiskey, something to. I'm kind of a nervous, shy person, so sometimes it
kind of loosens you up a little bit.
Be a little deadened when you come up on the stage. Although that said, it's not like I get tremendous anxiety anymore. I've been doing it, played hundreds, if not thousands of shows, so. You basically figure out how to do it after that. But I don't have any particular I do. And in fact, one of the things that happens, particularly at shows these days, because there's so many people, like the show is kind of like a little reunion or something. People who haven't had a chance to see the band in a while or ever, and they come and they want to talk to you and share their stories, which I think is great. I really like hearing everybody's stories. I mean, who wouldn't, right? They're talking about how important my songs and my band have been to their in their world, but it's also, that is a situation where you're just talking for sometimes like a couple of hours, and it's sort of, not that I dislike it, but it's being, quote, on all the time, because you've got to make the conversation work, so it's a performance in a way, although not dishonest, it's sincere, but it's not performance in a way. So that's the sort of thing that's most mentally fatiguing to me out of all the things in the world. And so sometimes when I get on the stage, I'm completely exhausted from that. So
that's totally understandable. I don't think people understand that. Like, I think we put people like on a pedestal, and like you don't realize that there's days where they're human and like they are tired and they are this and that. And, like maybe it is very hard to sometimes interact. I mean, I'm that way myself, and I mean, it's not that you ever want to be ignorant or mean to somebody, but like just being human sometimes. I mean, I can't even imagine like how exhausted you could be after playing shows and doing all that stuff. So I mean, I totally get that. I mean,
yeah, certainly. But I hasten to add that it's an important part of, I want to say, the job. It's an important part of the thing that you're doing. I mean, and if it weren't for that, it would be far less rewarding, because I don't know, I think most people who've been in bands, with very few exceptions, bands who became superstars or whatever, but most people in bands don't become superstars, and they're sort of pottering away, and if they're doing anything creative or anything where you're putting something out on the line for people to react to, and you kind of get used to the idea that of general indifference of the public, and it's sort of, it can be, you learn to take it in stride. You have to, but it's always, it's never unwelcome for someone to tell you that they've been paying attention and that they care about it. I mean, it's so, if it weren't for that, I don't know that it'd be worth doing it at all. So that's the important part. You pick these songs, you hope they will land, you hope they will mean something to someone, but you have no way of knowing or how often that's happened. So maybe you're in a room of 400 people, and maybe talk to 100 of them, and they will all tell you exactly that in the way in which that was the case, and that then you feel like yes, it was worth coming to Chicago. And so, for instance, I would not change that, but it does kind of work out sometimes.
Let me ask you this: what do you enjoy doing when you're not writing or performing, or anything?
What do I enjoy doing? Well, I'm a quiet sort of guy. I like reading. I've been spending a lot of my time these days, basically involved in work, because I'm working on organizing and trying to salvage the catalog and all the tapes and so forth, and basically a full-time job proven to be, because it's a very challenging, it's a very confusing jungle, and I'm gradually moving towards the point where I can assess what we've got to work with and trying to, do some kind of preservation of this catalog, which, I don't know that it's the most important thing in the world, but it's the most important thing I have to be working on. So, like one joke I sometimes insist, a legacy, if I had a best one, I would be working on that, but this is the one I got, the Mississippi Experience, etc. So, I don't know what you call it, but it is what it is. So I've been working a lot on that, and I've been working on trying to teach myself to play guitar better. and so I spend hours a day practicing, which is something I used to do. I get a lot out of that. But, you know, basically, if it doesn't all sit on I'm at a bit of a loss, and I have a lot of experience with it. So, being I can do on the couch, practicing guitar I can do on the couch, fretting over my back catalog, again, couch. When I move off the couch, it starts to get a little dicey, so I'm very much out of my element.
Now, how do you approach new material when it's time to write?
The best way, although it's not the way to come up with the volume, the best way is to just wait until the inspiration strikes at the proper time, and then jump on it when it happens. And then the reality of it is that after you're doing this, you've got all of these little partially standard that are going in your head. You know, this is when you're, you know, standing around somewhere and the conversation is boring, and then you'll think, oh, remember that idea I had? Is it ready? And then you kind of think that, and sometimes you'll think, yes, I have an idea, and then if you get back to your guitar in time, then sometimes you'll manage to do some work on it. There's no reason to do it. The world's not clamoring. There's not an urgency for new songs by me, certainly. But I just not to force it, as I have done in the past. It's like I've got to find songs today, but you know they're not that good. So you want the one really great one rather than the 10 ones, and so that is kind of the way that I've approached it. And then there'll be sometimes when I go on it's mysterious what that process is, but then somehow this thing you've been sort of mulling over for years will suddenly take shape, and you'll know, okay, that's what that song is going to be. And then after that, you have to spend a lot of time more or less editing and tinkering with it, and you know, massaging the lyrics and so forth, and that can take years, decades. Sometimes it's never finished. But the main thing is that whereas I used to say I need to come up with 10 songs in the next week, I don't do that anymore because I would rather put the effort into the truly good one. And I think my songs are better. They're not as many of them, but I think that's all right. I've got, I don't know how many, 14 years of gradually built up songs since the last Mr. She Experience album. So if and when we do another one, there's definitely enough songs, and they're better. So that's the way to do it.
Is there
got 14 years of nothing to spare?
In your body of work, is there a song that you ever get burnt out playing? Like a song that people love to hear, and you're just like, yeah, I'm kind of sick of playing this?
Not really. I mean, you know, there's some songs, and it's like you'll talk to any band at all that anyone ever heard of, where, you know, they'll have the songs they have to play, or the one song, you know, the hit song. And, you know, for us, that's the song Ba 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 Ba. Go and play it, which we have done before. People feel gypped, and I get that. And I don't. It's not like, you know, I'm playing it particularly. It's just that it doesn't matter what they are. You know, it's like I've played them all so many times of those, you know, songs from that album and from that period. The thing is that people appreciate it. And that's where the energy comes from, so I'm fine with it. You know, the ones that, if there were any songs in that category, it would just be, you know, songs that weren't that good. I don't think there are any of those that are popular, though, so we're not in that situation. There may be a connection between how popular it is to a degree and whether it sucks, or the degree to which it doesn't suck. But, you know, I'm not in a situation like that. We played with this band in Chicago last year called Mess, and I don't know if you ever heard of them.
I think I have.
Yeah. Yeah. So they had a song. They had I guess their most well-known song. It certainly was the one that came up first when I googled them. That was called "What's the Dealio?" It's kind of a weird novelty song that is very much not like what their other songs were, from what I could tell from seeing their show. And they don't play it, and that guy hates it. Like, he's just, and I could understand it. I mean, I even heard him tell a couple different people just sort of randomly how much he hates it and everything. And so if there was something like that, if there was something I really hated that I had to play, or else I was contractually obligated to play, then I would be bummed out. And I feel for this guy, because I've done a lot of marginal, not so great things, and it would be a bummer if the thing that I found most embarrassing and most humiliating was the thing that everybody insisted I do all the time. But fortunately for me, the songs that people like, I think are good, frankly. Not to be all boastful or anything. I think they're pretty good. And so Ba 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 is a great song, and it's fun to play it. People get excited about it, and really what's important. I mean, the song's good. You write the song, you try to make the song as good as you can, and the reason why it works is because you've done a good job with that. But then when you're playing it, there's something else, because these people have heard it before. They know everything about it, usually. So what you're doing is not presenting it to the audience and saying, hey, look at my song. How do you react? They already know. What you're doing is you're sharing the enactment of it with them, and that's the fun part, and that's the exciting part, because, they care about it. So that's why you give in that sense, giving the people what they want is good. I mean, on the other hand, if we don't do this, but if we were required to play only those songs, then that would get pretty boring. So, and that's the thing where you also have to crave the indulgence of your audience. You know the situation where the band is, they're going to play a new song and everybody leaves the room with groans at least. Yes. And I get that as well, but we just, a new song's got to sit somewhere. So you try to slide them in there where you feel they'll have the best chance of not being beaten up too bad for the songs.
Going back to your musical taste, can you name me an album or song that changed the way you hear music?
Wow, that's a good question.
Like something that had just that much of an impact on you?
Yeah, I mean, well, there are records that have a lot of impact on me because they were not I expected. And so, yeah, I mean, okay, I'm going to give you the answer I'm going to give you is television personalities, because when I first picked up the album and the kids just love it, because it had the Avengers and I can get it on the cover, and I was expecting to hear it. It's all cut and pasted. I was expecting to hear something much different than what I heard, which was very, I don't know how familiar you are with that record or that band. It's like the little recordings, really. And I mean, I think a person wwho doesn't get it would probably describe it as amateurish. But the thing is that there is this voice, and by voice I mean the creative, and not necessarily his little Stevie voice, the voice in the center of it, which is so exposed and so honest that it really did. And I was a kid. I was quite young when I heard it, and it did kind of open up a way of looking at what songs were and what music was. You could it was he was just nakedly presenting himself without very much artifice, and that could be a disaster in the wrong hands, but it's something that's very inspiring when you hear it. And I suppose that's a similar. You could say that about the Modern Lovers as well, and Jonathan Richman. But the Modern Lovers was still a great big rock band, and the TVP's not really. And so there was less of a barrier to the actual, like the actual guy. So I'm sure I could, if I thought about it, I'd come up with other things of that sort. But was that the kind of thing you?
Those are definitely good examples for sure. Have you ever dealt with people that are jealous of your fame, and how do you handle that? Like, I mean, how do you do
jealous of jealous of what?
Jealous of your fame, like, I mean, people that you might have went to school with and they haven't seen you.
No. My fame is not something that one would be jealous of.
I don't believe that.
I think there were, in the past there were sometimes some, not from my side certainly, but there were some rivalries among bands that would develop. I think it's only natural, you have your own band and then somebody else's crappy band, but how come, why do they get to do this thing that we don't get to do? We're not that much worse than them. That kind of thing, certainly, that's sort of inevitable in a scene of little guys. But no, I think I would say that I've got just about the right amount of fame. No one wants to kill me because of it, and it still allows me to do basically what I want to do, even though sometimes I fantasize about it being easier or being able to do more things. But on the other hand, I still get to do it the way I want. So, and those are kind of the graphs that represent those varying factors are related to each other, if you know what I mean. So, and the answer to the question is no, I've never encountered any of that kind of jealousy. I've had people tell me that they're jealous of my lyrics, which is awesome, nice to hear. It's never hostile. They mean it as a compliment, and they take it as a compliment.
Hey, what's the craziest thing you ever seen while performing a show? Was there anything that stands out?
Right now, we played in this wild, very raucous club in Montreal that was part of a street festival. It was in a bar that had where the band played in a stage with the backdrop of the plate glass window, and it had curtains. But when the band, towards the night when the bands were playing, they pulled the curtains aside so that people on the street could look in and see what was going on. And so a fight broke out in front of the stage where I was, you watch these things purposely because they could, the fight in the front of the stage could easily tumble onto the stage. The main thing that I knocking this out, certainly happens. But so I did after a little bit of confusion, I'm ready to launch into the next song. There's this massive crash behind me and a shower of shards of broken glass, and this big fat guy had been thrown through the window.
Holy shit.
Onto the stage. And that was the end of the set. So I challenge anyone to come up with a more surprising thing. I mean, it was from behind. I wasn't expecting it at all.
Oh, show's over, guys.
All shows like that.
Hey, what's one thing about you, Dr. Frank, that your fans may not know?
One thing about you they may not know. Boy, I'm pretty much an open book in a lot of ways because I share so much of myself on the, publicly in the various internet. Write lots of essays, and I just sort of trying to think of something they don't know. I taught myself ancient Greek,
Oh wow!
and I am very. One of the things I really love to do is to read Plato. When I have the mental space to do it, but I think people kind of know that. I don't really know. I have a cat.
Those are all. Yeah, you gave me three. That's
I'm
great,
a Roman
dude.
Catholic.
That's awesome, dude. I got one for you. What's the strangest thing a fan's ever requested of you? And hopefully it's not my interview.
Well, let's see. I signed a coconut. That was pretty good. I signed a pack of tampons.
What?
Well, a lot of people have you sign things that are unusual. There was a guy that had me that wanted this is something that happens in the Midwest particularly. He wanted me to sign his girlfriend's breasts.
Oh wow! How many boobs have you signed in your career? You'd say.
It happens every now and again. But this particular guy, he did that, and it went according to plan. And then, maybe 10, 15 minutes later, he comes over with this other woman. Says, "Now, will you sign my mom's tits?" And
are you serious?
I was flabbergasted, but it turns out it was a joke. It was not.
That would have been the best story
ever. Bartender, and she didn't want my pen anywhere near her breasts either. But it was funny. I was it's the word pumped. It was a prank. It was good because I was speechless.
I can imagine, man. Hey, what's the best gift anybody's ever given you?
My parents gave me first guitar, my first acoustic guitar, as a confirmation present, and that set a trajectory in motion that might not have otherwise happened. So I gotta give it to that.
Man, that's almost like if they did this will transition well to my next question for you. If somebody did a biopic of like your life coming up in the band, like who would you want to play you, like a famous actor? Who do you think can do a good Dr. Frank?
I really don't know. If you'd asked me that question 30 years ago, I probably would have said Keanu Reeves just because they're funny. But I don't know if it's that funny anymore. And I don't really keep up with who the actors are. And I'm not sure that would be biopic. Well, so maybe it's not to happen. I don't know better. And Keanu, I guess I'll just stick with Keanu.
Yeah, why not, man? I mean, I still think you could pull Keanu off for sure. Describe to me the craziest porno you've ever seen.
Oh, man. Here's the thing. I mean, maybe my experience in that area is not particularly extensive or rarefied as it might be. They're all kind of the same. So, and, I'm not saying they're not great, but they're all same basic idea. I mean, they're, I don't know. You go back to the 70s and sort of where I don't know if you call it exactly pornography, but sort of the exploitation movies and stuff. There was a lot more creativity and a lot more artistry and that sort of thing. And I guess what's that Russ Meyer movie where the gal the fish? That's one of the weirdest things with Super Vixens.
Ooh.
So yeah, that's there. But otherwise, it's just this girl on a couch and this guy with a camera behind the desk, and he says, "Well, why don't you stand up and take your top off?" And she goes, "Okay." And he's like, "There's how many hundreds of thousands of them are there? I can't really say that any had any particular one. Although maybe if I did a really careful study, I could come up with one."
You handled that way better than I possibly could. In your opinion, what's the worst form of music and why?
Well, I like or can appreciate most things, almost everything, but maybe the exception that proves the rule is whatever you call that Limp Bizkit genre.
Well, yeah, I don't even. What is that, like rap or rock or?
Rap, rock, yeah, and then closely followed by thrash funk, meaning like Red Hot Chili Peppers music, which I also really can't. There's something I am missing, the processor that allows me to enjoy it.
Something that just gets under your skin.
What's that?
It just gets under your skin. I think everybody has something that just kind of I totally get that.
Yeah, it's just. I think there's that quote. I don't know if it's real, but it's a quote attributed to Nick Cave where he's always around hearing some really, really terrible song, and I ask who it is, and the answer is always the same: the Red Hot Chili Peppers. And I know where he's coming from. And nothing against those guys. I'm sure they try really hard, and they've been very successful at it. But for some reason, it just drives me up the wall.
Who do you consider be the biggest asshole in the music industry?
I might have to plead the fifth on that one. I'm trying to think of. I've had some disappointing celebrity meeting experiences, but those are all just where situations where my excitement was not matched by the
I know I've had plenty of those, dude. I know exactly what you're talking about. Like in my mind, I have them so built up, and when you meet them, they're just like, yeah, you're okay. Yeah,
right. And then there are certain people that I've just had opportunities to meet and say hello to that I've purposely avoided just because I don't want to have that happen just in case. There's no reason to think, but so one of them is Robin Hitchcock, who I'm as big a fan as it's possible to be of someone, and I've had many situations where I've been in the same place as him or seen him at a show where he's standing around or that sort of thing. Well, I could easily have introduced myself, and I've just made the decision that I'm going to leave that unexplored. What would happen, even though I have no reason to doubt that he'd be a lovely man to talk to. But that's I can't. You can't believe. I've heard that Chuck Berry was a very unpleasant guy. Never met him, but I love him so much that I can accept that, if that's true. I mean, I just don't really know. And as for anyone from our world that I might answer to that question, I'm just not going to say, because there's no point in airing dirty laundry on the internet. I've learned that the hard way. So.
Gotcha. Here's actually this is a music related question. In your opinion, do you feel technology's become a detriment or asset to what you do?
All things considered, detriment. And there's a lot of different ways to arrive at that conclusion. I mean, one of them is that if you want to look at the whole file sharing thing as the arrow that pierced the heart of the music industry and brought it down in the early 2000s, that was very much a detriment to me, because it meant that people stopped buying records, and the thing that my band used to do, which was a record every year or two, that would basically fund itself, so that the record label could afford to put out a subsequent one the next year. Suddenly that was gone, and I had to remain silent for 10 years because I couldn't figure out how any of these recordings were going to be paid for, and no one could figure it out, and people still haven't figured that out. I would say that's the worst. There were things that are easier to do now. Definitely, touring would be a lot easier now that you have cell phones and Waze and so forth. But nevertheless, it was still possible to be a functional band on a very low budget back then, paying your way by selling records and CDs, which is just not a thing that anyone can do anymore now. And even really big superstar bands can't sell records to speak of, and not in the same way it was. And the other way that there's a kind of the cloud and the silver lining is communications technology. Theoretically, you can get out there more because it's so easy to share things and so easy to broadcast what you're doing. But in reality, everything just gets lost in a general shuffle and nobody pays attention to anything. And so that also makes things tougher. And basically, we didn't know how good we had in the 90s to be a sort of lower middle range show business act. That was the ideal situation, at least as far as my experience goes.
I'd like to touch a little bit on your, you being an author too. I mean, I'm a fan of your books. I love King Dork. I love Andromeda Collide. I love King Dork approximately. And I've always wanted to ask you, how did you transition from musician to author?
Well, remember how I told you about the music industry collapsing and my label going out of business, and I couldn't afford to make records anymore?
Yeah.
So that was 2004. Was when our last that record came out. And then I didn't know what to do with myself. And so there was a suggestion from a guy who had been a fan of my band when he was younger, and he grew up and became a literary agent, and he had been contacting me for the previous couple of years saying there's this teen fiction is kind of a hot thing now, and he said if I could write a book that would embody the same type of sensibilities as some of the songs, that he could maybe sell it. And I never took it that seriously, but then when I found myself with nothing to do because of this aforementioned situation, I had the time and the desperate attitude to sit down and try writing something, and then the result was that it turned into career as a novelist, and it was, I had a lot to learn about writing a book. I'd never written a book before. I had to do many, many drafts before it was publishable, but that was what I spent most of my time doing for the next decade.
How did you? I mean, so you're saying you kind of pulled stories from like those books, like from like ideas of songs you had, or from songs, or I mean, where did the ideas for those stories come from?
Well, for King Dork, that was just I had my first meeting with the woman who became my editor before I had written the book, but I was in New York, and we went out to lunch, and she said, she suggested maybe taking a song title and then, sort of using that as a stepping off point for a book. And I don't think she even really knew what my songs were like, but I just thought of all my songs and tried to imagine the one that would look best on a book cover, and King Dork, I narrowed it down to King Dork or Swallow Everything. And I think the history has borne out that King Dork was the right choice. And then subsequent to that, it was not really a matter of mining the songs for content as it was. So, you look at the song King Dork.
I love that song, by the way.
Thank you very much. What's the narrator saying? What's he like? What kind of person is he? And that's when I realized, actually, this is the first time I realized this, that not on purpose, but that there's a collection of my songs that, in effect, had that same narrator. So not all of them, but, you know, the King Dork narrator is the same as the Even Hitler Had a Girlfriend narrator, the Thank You for Not Being One of Them narrator, the I'm Like the Abbot Sees All Know. Those are all the same guy, even though I wasn't really thinking of it in those specific terms. And so I started trying to think, what would this voice, this character, this point of view, this person look like, not in song form, but in narrative fiction form. And once I got the hang of it, it was actually not that hard to do the voice in prose. And so that was how I kind of slid into it. And then, you know, when you've got a good voice, it's a bit like with a song. You got to write songs more tightly, but when you have the essence of it, which in a novel is definitely a voice, in a song it can be a voice, and then also a conceit, which is, you know, what you want the song to do, and then you try to make it do it, you know. And then that is similar with novel writing, although with a novel writing it's much longer, more complicated, and you've got all these mini trajectories and mini conceits that hopefully sort of support the overarching conceit. And I just, you know, jumped into it with that approach in mind, and, you know, the result was those two books.
I heard a rumor, and I hope you don't mind me bringing this up, but it's probably an internet rumor. I wanted to see if you could shed any light on it. I heard there was supposed to be a King Dork movie. Is there any truth to that? And do you have anything to do with it?
Well, there certainly is truth to it. I'm not sure what the status is now. It was optioned shortly after it was published. I mean, when that book came out, it was kind of a big deal. It was like so to speak. It was like, it made a big splash, and so, you know, there were lots of people interested in it, and it did get options, and it came close to being made a couple times, and then it fell through in Hollywood. And so, I think now the latest idea for what to do with it, if it actually happens, is to do it as a series, and which is perfectly makes sense to approach it that way. I have no idea whether it's going to happen. I hope it does, because it would be great for me, obviously, and it would be a way to, you know, bring those stories and my music and just everything to new people who haven't heard it before. I really hope it happens, but when I first signed the contract for the option, it was very much like, this is going to happen, you know, next year, and it's going to be famous, it's going to be great. And, you know, of course, then after 10 years of that, you lose that excitement. And then, you know, but I still am hoping.
Yeah, me too, man. I think I could see it being a series on, say, like Netflix or Hulu, and I think it'd be cool because you can actually take the time to, you know, flesh out the characters, because your characters are very memorable, and there's lots of layers to them. So I think that's the format you need, where you can actually, you don't have to rush through everything. Like in a movie, sometimes things are so glossed over and missed. I mean, I think that would actually give your your content a chance to, like, branch out and, like, tell the story better. Like, I think I almost feel like,
I agree.
Yeah, I almost feel like whenever a book is turned into a film, there's always something lost from, like, page to screen. And I do like whenever there's these series, like, I've been watching like Castle Rock and things like that, and it's nice to, like, where you don't. I almost feel like when you watch these things, like, the narrative isn't rushed anymore. Like, they can actually take their time to, you know, do character development, things that are very important to a story. So, like, I really hope it does work out for you, man, because I am a fan of pretty much all your books. I mean, I'm just an overall fan altogether, but it would be definitely nice to see that, you know, come to the screen.
Well, I appreciate you saying that very much, and yes, I agree. It would be great, and I'm still haven't given up, and it's still, you know, as far as I know, still being developed. But yes, so there are there's only a small number of things out of millions of properties that actually do end up getting made, and a whole lot can go wrong, and so you just never know. But I appreciate you saying that, and that when it does happen, let's talk again, and we can have a celebratory beer or something.
I would love that, man. I would surely. I mean, I'll be honest. I met you back in the day at I think it was Laga or Graffiti, and you were easily one of the most approachable and nice people I've ever met. I have a picture of us together, and it was awesome, dude. It's like you said before. You have bad experiences when you meet somebody and you really look up to them and you admire them, and I have to say, dude, you're one of the nicest people I've ever met. You definitely didn't let me down. You were very friendly and nice, and I'm sure I was probably at the time overly gushy and excited, and you put up with it very nicely. It was really nice.
Well, I'm glad I didn't screw that up. I mean, it goes back to what I was saying before, which is just it's really an important part of it to me to interact with the people who care about the song. So,
I tell you what, though, dude, I don't want to keep you all night long. But I am going to ask you a couple more things, and then we'll try to wrap it up here. Do you feel that any of your relationships, whether it be with friends or family or significant other, has suffered due to you being in a band in general, and why?
Sure. I mean, it's hard to. It's a strange existence. It's a precarious existence, certainly financially. It involves doing a lot of things that are inimical to what you often think of as healthy home life. So yes, I had a marriage that didn't survive it, but on the other hand, I don't know that I would have been a better person to be married to had I had a more conventional sort of way of living, although probably if I had more money, I'd still be married to her, and neither of us would be happy. So.
See, I actually don't know if you remember this or not, but this might blow your mind if you don't. You actually were a tremendous help to me when I was going through my divorce. I had actually reached out to you, and you'd actually given me tons of really good advice. I don't know if you remember or not, but
I do remember that happened. I don't remember the substance of it. I'm glad to hear that it was helpful.
That was me, man. Believe it or not, I've always wanted to thank you for that. And yeah, man, I was really going through a hard time, and I mean, how damaging that is. And you were kind enough to reach out to me, and you didn't even know me from Adam, and you really, really helped me out, and I always had a special place in my heart for that, because I really thought it was nice and kind for you to even take an interest, and you really gave me a lot of good advice, which I followed, and I definitely think things could have been a lot worse had I not listened to you. You did give me a lot of good experience and advice from I'm assuming from your personal life, and I always thought that was really fucking cool, you man. I'm glad I actually get to tell you face to face just how much that meant to me, and just how very nice it was.
Yeah, very glad to hear it. I do the best I can, life can be pretty tough, and you gotta help each other when you can, and I don't want to sound like a hippie, but I do believe that is the best way to live your life.
Yeah, I mean, I have to say, man, what seemed the worst thing that happened in the world at the time. I mean, I've never been more happier. I don't want to sound like gloom and doom. There's actually a happy, end of the story. I mean, I met my fiance now. We're getting married next October. I have an incredible stepdaughter, and my life has changed tremendously for the better. So, I mean, I'd like to think that you're a part of that, man. So, I'm really glad I got to thank you. And other than that, yeah, I mean, other than that, I wanted to always do that, and I actually want to ask you what The thing I would like to know the most is what plans can we look forward to the future? I mean, I am dying for another MTX album. Are we ever going to get that?
Well, I hope so. There is an MTX album in theoretically in my head. That I have songs and I gradually reorder them. It's got it'll be pretty strong if we ever manage to figure out a way for it to do. I know we're going to record some songs at least coming up, some new songs. Recording little things is a little less of a logistical challenge than doing a whole big, huge, expensive one. And then in the meantime, I'm also working on, and I think I mentioned, I'm organizing my tapes, and I'm going to try to. We're in the beginning of a process that's going to be a long, drawn out, very challenging, but I'm still having fun with it. Process of trying to reiterate and put the catalog in print on a limited basis. So we're talking limited editions, and just to make sure that they're, while I'm still alive to do it, that this catalog can be doesn't just blow away into the dust. And so we've done 2 volumes of rarities, which are called shards. So
yeah, I've seen those. I listened to them on Spotify. I've heard those.
Yeah, so those are coming out as we did. There was a digital compilation from a bit ago, but we're doing it right. We're doing as high quality mastering and production as we can, and we're putting a lot of care into the individual things. So those are 2 volumes, and there's going to be a double album, which is going to be a best of type collection, sort of a hot rocks, and that is sort of integrated with the shows, and that's going to be like a 4-disc set. And then
will there be bonus tracks?
What's that?
Is there bonus tracks rolling around that maybe we've not heard yet?
There are. Well, I mean, the shards are the bonus tracks. The best of is, if you have a knowledge of our catalog, there's going to be nothing new for you. But we are going to a tremendous time and money actually, and for tracking down and organizing the tapes and transferring them in the highest resolution possible so they'll sound better. I can almost guarantee.
I definitely need that, man, because I have to say my CDs has taken a beating over the years. So I mean, I think any MTX fan will definitely jump at the opportunity for those. I mean, I know I will for sure.
There's a chance to regroup and kind of present these things which they were recorded and released under very marginal circumstances in many cases over the years. Just really low budgets, really rushed, really strange method production and so forth. And so this is a chance to present them at their best. So that's a kind of a cool thing to do. And we're starting with this stuff because it's relatively straightforward process, and there's never been a best of MTX, and I think having that out there along with the rarities at least will give people a chance to get a general idea of what it's all about, and then we're going to start getting into the albums and try to figure out what to do with it. I want to do reissues. I want them to be interesting. Definitely will be some extras with the releases that we're just still in the process of trying to sort through that. And then, once that process gets underway, in there, enough, there's a little bit of money to fund it.
Have you ever thought of maybe doing a Kickstarter?
I've thought of it, and I know a lot of people do that. I shy away from that kind of thing. I'm not good at being the, if you saw the Ben Weasel, he's very good at it. He just goes up there and he a good game. I don't, all that stuff. That's not what I'm good at, and maybe that's what it takes to be a pretend rock star. I'm not good at that. Maybe I could hire like the Reverend Norb to be the face of the music experience Kickstarter. That I thought of that approach. So maybe, but it would have to be done in a way that didn't, which would defeat the purpose if it.
How about book-wise? Do you think you have another book in you, or what do you think?
Oh yeah, I'm working. I mean, books is. I'm not the only. Tell you, they don't get easier. So, but I am. There will be. I'm working on a couple of books now, and I can't say they'll be finished, but when no.
So what you're telling me is I will, in fact, one day get to reunite with you in Pittsburgh at some point and rock out some MTX.
Absolutely, and Pittsburgh is on the list of we do these days. The way that we organize our shows is basically we do a weekend. We'll fly to one city where there's sort of good. High probability of successful show, and then find another city within driving distance of that, and then that's our weekend. We did Milwaukee, Chicago, we do like LA, San Diego, we do Portman, Seattle. So Pittsburgh is always on the list there, and I always used to love playing Pittsburgh. Know people there and or in the region, and so I imagine it'll happen sooner rather than later. Some type of show in Pittsburgh. So just watch the calendar.
Awesome, man. I'm going to hold you to that. And so I just want to tell you, Dr. Frank, thank you so much for being a guest on my show. Thank you so much for, I just want to thank you personally for all the years of entertainment and music, and just how, I have to tell you, man, you honestly made a big impact in my life, like those people that did when you were growing up. And like, I just want to thank you. Thank you so much for your music, your books, and everything. And thank you for being such a gracious guest. I really appreciate it, and thank you so much.
Well, thank you. I appreciate you. And anytime you have anything else to ask, don't.
Never a problem, man. I'd like to get you back in here whenever you got some another MTX album coming out, or whenever your new book is coming out. I would love to have you back, and we will definitely plug the living shit out of it.
That's a great arrangement to me. All right, well, stay in touch, and thanks again, and good luck.
Thank you so much, Dr. Frank. Peace and love. Peace and love.
American Ninja 2.
now, cats, we're back again this week with the Balls from Ellwood show, and it is now that time that everybody waits for. You know her, you love her. Are you ready for the depravity this week, cats? Here you go. Here she is, XTina Depravity Corner. Take it away, XTina.
All right, I will take it away. Where do you want me to take it to? Well, we're going to take it to Florida. That's where we're going to take it to because, where else but Florida would there be this sort of thing? So we have some breaking news that happened over, I guess, the weekend here, you could say. In, I don't even know how you say this, DeBarry, Florida. A 15-year-old boy is being charged with the murder of his mother because he got a D in one of his classes. Yes, that's right, people. This 15-year-old boy got a D. She confronted him, so he killed her. Not that he just kill her. It's a little more involved than that. So he, I guess, got into, an argument with his mother because she was upset at him for getting a D in one of his classes. And so he decided that he would go into his mother's room after midnight one night and strangle her until she died. So you're a 15-year-old boy. Your mom yells at you because you got a bad grade. You're like, all right, I guess I got to do this. So he goes in the middle of the night and just starts choking her until she's died. And then she didn't actually die. He went out behind his house to retrieve a wheelbarrow to, essentially dispose of the body. When he came back in the house, he realized his mom had not actually died. So then he had to go back in again and strangle her for 30 minutes to make sure she was dead. So yeah, he actually enlisted the help of some friends to stage a burglary. That's right, folks. When you're 15 years old and you murder your mother, who do you call on? Your good buddies. So you call them and say, help me guys, we got to stage a burglary. So that's what they did. He called his buddies and they came down and helped him retrieve a shovel. They got him to stow away some electronics so that it looked like, there was things taken from the house. They buried her body at a church. That's pretty nice. That was real nice of them. They buried her at under a fire pit at the church. That's really sweet. And then before they went to bed, him and the two friends, after they finished burying his mom, they went to a Circle K store to grab a soda because I'm pretty sure they were real thirsty after all that. So I guess that's what you do when you, kill your mom and bury her. And so he even went to school the next day. Then he called 911 after he returned home from school and reported a burglary. Beautiful story, beautiful. So he told them that his mom was missing and her van was running in the driveway. What could have happened? So he ended up, I guess things weren't adding up. His story wasn't adding up, and the detectives were pretty suspicious. So apparently after they questioned him for a while, he must have caved and he confessed. And so now, and he implicated his buddies too. So here's a word of advice. Don't help your friends bury a body. You're going to get in trouble too, just in case you know. So, just to be clear, don't help your friends bury bodies. Don't get bad grades, and then you won't have to kill your mom for being mad at you. I mean, I think it's fairly simple. What do you think, Balls?
Oh, yeah. I tell you what, this one actually, hasn't hit me as hard as the ones normally do. It's actually kind of comically ridiculous. First of all, this kid never got a D before. He's like, you got a D, and that was enough to send them over the edge. I'd like to know, did this go on for a long time where he's like teetering on the C mark and he's like, oh fuck man, I get that D and this fucking bitch is dead meat. Like how does that fucking work? Like a D is what makes him lose control, like Patty Duke and a hot dog. I just don't understand. Like, and not only that, obviously this kid was disturbed, if that's what makes him lose his shit. There has to be some underlying other things going on here other than, he gets a D, and then the whole fucking Jenga pile falls. It just is ridiculous. It sounds to me like it was either A, like, he was overly disciplined, or B, there was, like, no discipline at all. Like, the mom's finally like, I've had it up to here, I gotta try to do some fucking discipline, but it's too late. And then the kid's like, what the fuck? Now I don't know how to react to this. I'm going to kill her. So, that's my theory. One of two things. But I personally, believe in discipline. Like, I thank my parents every day that they disciplined me well, because it turned me into the person I am today. I don't regret that one bit. I don't think they're assholes for it. In fact, I think they're incredible people for it, because it made me not an asshole. And I thank the lucky stars every day. In that respect, I know how to treat people, and I know what's right and wrong. So I don't know. It's a very interesting case. I think it's funny that like he kills his mom. He implicates his friends. And then he breaks, and then, now all his friends have to pay for his fucking retardedness. What a good friend that is. But, at least he was classy. He buried her to church, what a good guy he is. So.
Pretty classy. Here's some irony for you. Apparently she was on a dating site a few years ago, and in her dating profile it said she's an architect, she's Catholic, and she's currently interested in raising a happy child. Well... sorry, lady. Your luck went out, and he implicated his friends, trying to see if there's anything else interesting. Yeah, these other friends are like accessories to murder. How sad is that? You're teenagers.
I have a question for you.
Okay.
Correct me if I'm wrong. Like, did you not say that like he tried to kill her?
Yeah.
And she wasn't fully dead, and then he ended up killing her in another 30 minutes?
Then he came back and strangled her for another 30 minutes. And here's the irony.
How would you not fight back?
Right. And they both were very involved in martial arts. So I find it interesting that she couldn't...
That's what I'm saying. Like, why did she not fight back?
Right. Of course...
Anything I can to get away from this little motherfucker.
Right. And of course, she also has... she supposedly had a black belt, but so did he. So it's hard to say, how this works, but... I would have
Cobra Kai'd his ass and ran out the door.
Yeah, she also, though, was, sleeping. So, that's kind of an unfair, that's what a lot of things happen to these poor people that, when you're sleeping, you're a little, woozy and disoriented, and so they have the upper hand on you. But yeah, after the amount of time that passed, whether it was it had to have been 15, 20 minutes, I would think. Yeah, and then she wasn't dead, so he continued to... finish the job.
That's so fucked up.
It is screwed up, and it's just pretty crazy. So yeah, and then the irony too is he was just at a a junior police officer conference or something. He went to they send little boys to be good. Yeah, isn't that great?
What is this from?
What is this from?
When is this from?
This just happened, yeah, over the weekend, last week. Maybe Friday, I want to say. It must have been Thursday night into Friday because he went to school. And then it says here, the sheriff that the sheriff listened to the 911 call that this kid made, trying to say that there was a robbery or whatever. He said that it was Grammy award winning. So apparently this kid's a pretty decent actor. Too bad he didn't follow his suit in that, perhaps. And I've noticed a lot of psychos are pretty good actors. They should probably, reconsider career paths, maybe. That might be a good idea.
Well, I think he's going to probably get an Academy Award-winning appearance when he's getting his butthole pounded every 15 minutes in prison. So
I wonder if he was... Balls and I just came from a child's birthday party, And, there was some little brats there that were very disrespectful. I bet you this kid was very similar to those little brats. I bet the little brat we met today is going to turn out to be a killer and murder someone, wouldn't you think?
Oh, it's funny that you even mentioned that, because, like, when I go to, like, a public thing like this, I fucking, you know how much, you know as well as I do, I fucking hate going to this kind of shit to begin with, for this reason. My heart's in the right place, I get excited, I like to actually kind of go out and interact with people, and then they fuck it up every single time. This is why I hate going to these kind of functions. Having a good time, I was looking forward to going, and it just takes one white trash motherfucker to ruin it, you know? Like, this fucking white trash cunt has she pops out fucking 20 white trash kids, and then I gotta fucking deal with it, because now they don't even, not only the fact that she don't correct her fucking kids, she joins in on being a piece of shit with her kids. So I'm like, it's no surprise to me that her kids are assholes, because she's an asshole, so, like, the fucking asshole don't fall from the asshole tree, so, I mean, I'm just like, we're fucking sitting there, and, it's a costume party, and this little motherfucker comes over and is like, don't even ask, and I'm like, I even said, A, you're being fucking rude, stop touching our stuff, B, knock it off, and they don't listen at all. That's the thing. Nobody fucking teaches their kids morals or values or anything to fucking, anything anymore. They don't know, they feel like they can just run around and do whatever the fuck they want, and they don't listen. And I'm like, I can't be in public, man. Because, like, I think I'm going to fucking stab one of these little motherfuckers one of these days. Like, I can't. And then I go to jail. So, like, how's that fair? So, never mind the bullet shot there, people. I don't know what the fuck that was. That just proves my point more. So, I can't handle the public. I can't handle fucking undisciplined fucking children. I wish there was an act where, like, if you see a kid being bad and their parents are too much of a pussy to fucking discipline their kids, I could go over and smack the living fuck out of your kid for you. Like, I wish they'd pass that act. I would love it.
Yeah, in fact, it was pretty funny. One of the parents or something said, "Where's Papa? You better hope Papa's not around." And Balls was like, "I'll take Papa's place. Just watch."
Yeah, I wish I could tag in for Papa, because obviously he's the only one that knows what the fuck's going on, Because obviously he raised a piece of shit daughter that can't fucking discipline her piece of shit kids, so, I'll tag in for Papa any day of the week. Everywhere I go, I see these undisciplined fucking apelings all over the fucking place, and I'd like to kick a field goal with every motherfucking one of them. I can't stand it. But if I did any of this shit when I was a kid, I would get the living piss beat out of me. And I fucking thank them for it. I think I should have. I was an asshole. So that's why the world is the way it is now. That's why we're a nation of fucking PC, fucking everybody's feelings hurt bunch of cunts. And that nobody knows how to treat anybody anymore, and everybody's a fucking asshole. So that's why. If you ever wonder why, this is why, people.
Yeah, because, I mean, think back like 10, even, maybe even 15 years ago, 20 years ago. It was a very rare occurrence to hear of, like, teenagers killing anybody, let alone their parents. Like, now it seems like that's just, like, commonplace.
It's become so complacent with all the fucking violence in the media and all the horrible fucked up shit that happens that we're so fucking desensitized to it. When you scroll through your fucking thing in the morning, drinking your coffee, it's like, it don't even register anymore. Do you know how fucked up that is? That this kind of fucking bullshit don't even register anymore, that we're so used to, like, the world being this fucked up. That right there should tell you that there's change has to come somewhere. This isn't fucking normal. This is going to be the destruction of humanity, and everybody sits there and drinks their coffee and sits in their ass and does a fucking nothing, So, whatever it happens, man, I don't want to hear anybody fucking cry or complain about it. So, because everybody knows what needs to happen, and everybody just fucking turns a blind eye to it. So, fuck the world. So that's pretty much what everybody's telling me when all this shit happens. Fuck the world. We don't care. As long as I have my little fucking gadget in my hand, my fucking coffee, and I can fucking live in my little fucking bubble, that's great, man. Because, like, who cares about the rest of the world? Like, I'm going to fucking live with, like, 2 feet in front of me, man. Who gives a fuck? So whenever any bad thing happens, I ain't gonna feel the slightest bit bad, because I know why it's happened. I know why it's coming.
Yeah, it's pretty sad. Like, I wonder if there's teachers in the world that, like, look around their classroom and go, "Yep, that one's gonna be the psychopath. We got to watch that one."
I actually know a teacher, and I've had this conversation with them, and they said every single year they could pick out who the disciplinary problem is the first day. Mm-hmm. And 90% of the time, they're always right. Mm-mm-mm. So, I mean, that right there tells you just, actions speak louder than words. So.
Yeah, it's pretty scary. So anyway, I think that about sums up the Depravity Corner this week. Just remember, folks, don't piss off parents, don't piss off kids, don't piss off anybody, and especially don't call on your friends to help you bury the body.
And let me put my last little 2 cents in here. One other thing, don't be afraid to teach your kids right from wrong. You're just going to hurt them otherwise if you don't. And then you're going to hurt me, because then I got to fucking sit around these little motherfucking assholes. And then I don't know. Good luck. That's all I'm saying. But anyway, off to a brighter topic. I would like to do a movie review with you, XTina. XTina and I had the overbearing question as to what to see. We decided to have a little date night. We went out last night, and we were going to, in fact, see a film. I was more leaning towards Bohemian Rhapsody. Next, Tina was chomping at the bit for a long time to see, in fact, the remake of A Star is Born with Bradley Cooper and Lady Gaga, which I actually had interest in myself because I like Lady Gaga. There, I said it. I'm not ashamed. I think she's awesome. I even like Bradley Cooper. I don't want to fuck him. I think he's a good-looking dude. XTina wants to fuck him. But I personally would just let her fuck him because I just sit there and watch it. I guess I'd be a cuckold, but I'd totally fuck Lady Gaga. I'd push her dick out of the way and I would go right down
Hey, no.
I used to make that joke all the time. I used to say, because I used to tease her and say she was a dude.
Yeah.
And I'd say, I think she's hot, man. I'd push her little dick right out of the way and I'd go right down on her. I'd eat that pussy clean. So
my goodness.
I would totally do that. But anyway, this is not a movie review. We're getting off the rails.
Off the rails.
But anyway, I'm going to give my opinion, and I'm going to give you. I'm going to turn the mic over to you and see what you have to say. So, okay. I went in. I've seen many inclinations of the same story. There's been many remakes of A Star Is Born. I had. The only reason I really wanted to see it was because of the cast. I mean, it's a story that's been told 100 times. I went in expecting, a lot more. And, I mean, I felt it was very good. I feel it's definitely a little bit overhyped. I think the strongest thing that you could go into this movie for, is I agree, XTina had mentioned this, I agree with her. She said the songs are kind of mediocre, except for maybe a couple. That, I think, is probably the biggest thing that hurts this film. I mean, people, they jump on the bandwagon and they're making something out of nothing. These songs are nothing major, and I mean, in a musical, songs is your lifeblood, your heart, and 80% of the film. Luckily, the film has so much high caliber and top-notch acting that, I mean, the songs almost take a back seat, which is what I liked. I mean, because, I'm an acting dude. I love seeing people. The highlights of this movie was me, and everybody fucking has this thing in their head, and it's such a big surprise that Andrew Dice Clay is a good actor. Everybody's like, oh, he's a filthy, dirty comedian. This motherfucker can act. He's been acting for decades, and it's the biggest kept secret in Hollywood. But I felt he was really good. Gaga blew it away. Bradley Cooper, man, I gotta say, very good. From an acting standpoint, I give it an A+. From a musical standpoint, I'd probably give it a C+. But and Sam Elliott, Sam Elliott was incredible. I mean, I can go on and on. It's amazing. Acting-wise, amazing. Musical-wise, not so much. I don't see how people are going back and seeing it over and over and over again. I mean, I'm over it. Once I seen it once, I thought it was good. And it brought me to blubber a few fat guy tears. I'm not going to lie to you. It is a very powerful and emotional tale, but it always isn't every inclination to ever tell it. But, I mean, that being said, XTina, your thoughts? That's pretty much everything I had to say about it.
Yeah, I mean, I would basically second the majority of that. I mean, I had, super high hopes, high expectations. I felt it to be a little slow moving at first and a little kind of and then it would kind of go all over the place. It was real slow moving, and then things were happening really quickly. And they didn't really give you a lot of explanation as to how this happened so quickly and all this. But whatever, I know they got so much time to make a movie, but whatever. Also, though, yes, the acting was phenomenal. I thought, Lady Gaga, I thought she looked just adorable. It's never a word I would think that you would use for her, but she looked cute. like really cute and like just like a normal person, you know, which she is. Nobody seems to realize that. And you know, I thought that they did a phenomenal job of acting. I mean, I truly believed in their love story, and you know, they had me sold. But I have to admit, I was pretty disappointed, because I'm a girl who loves to sing, and I'm a girl who loves to sing to musical songs. So I was really like hoping I was gonna fall in love with like some of the music and be wanting to sing it all over my house and in the car, and yeah, none of it really captivated me enough to really want to go back and, you know, buy the soundtrack or any of that. I'm not feeling that. And again, you know, I've heard that people have gone back and watched it again. I don't think I could sit through it again. Like, it just wasn't that captivating to me I mean, I would probably at some point, maybe in a couple years, sit down and watch it on video or something, but I couldn't go back right now and watch it. But again, it was very good, and the ending, because I never saw any of the other versions of this film, so I didn't know how it ended. I didn't know what exactly happened. I had just heard that it's pretty sad and pretty kind of darkish, and you know, it really was that. And I mean, it definitely captured my emotions for sure. I mean, I was also a blubbering idiot, and I had meant to take a box of tissues with me, because I am a blubbering idiot when it comes to these types of films, but I forgot. So what did I do? I balled up like some toilet paper on my way from the restroom into the movie. Very smart thinking. Didn't want to get it all over me. And you could hear everybody in the audience like, you could hear that, because it would be like moments of like complete quiet, and you could just hear people like with their sniffles and stuff. It was kind of interesting and kind of sweet, and that's always interesting when it like when it, you know, brings emotion out of pretty much everybody in an audience. That's pretty powerful stuff. But you know, that being said, again, yeah, I would definitely give the storyline and the acting, well, maybe the acting an A+, the storyline a B, and then the songs maybe a C. So that's my grade. I'm looking forward to Bohemian Rhapsody. I hear that's phenomenal, so can't wait to see that one.
In closing, I think the best thing you could probably get out of this film, and like much like all the other inclinations of this film, is the cautionary tale of the music industry. I mean, that's something I think that they do in fact touch on very well. I mean, and it's a sad fact that even in real life, most artists that do in fact want to become a star have to pretty much barter and sell their soul and become pretty much something they don't want to be, or at least compromise who they are to get where they want to be. And that's a sad fact of reality, and it's definitely illustrated in this film very well. It's definitely a strength of this film, I think, that they show, and they show it very good. I mean, that being said, I think we covered it all. I mean, if I had to give it an overall grade, I'd give it probably a B-, but when I expected an A+. But I mean, that's still pretty good. I mean, I thought it was enjoyable. But yeah, like XTina said, I am super looking forward to Bohemian Rhapsody, and hopefully it's not, disappointing as well. So I mean, that being said, we're going to be checking that out. I'm sure we'll be covering that in a future show. Other than that, I got some other stuff coming up here in Horizon. I got my Doyle interview coming the 23rd of November. That's going to be pretty awesome, cats. I got some other things in the horizon. I'm trying to hold people down and get booked. So, I mean, I have some other guests coming up that I can't quite for sure tell you about, but they'll be coming up here in the future. And yeah, other than that, if you want to give us a shout at WindyChops1976 at gmail.com, you can write the show. You can give us suggestions. You can tell me whatever you want. You can say, hey, you're a big dick, balls, and I'll be like, howdy do. Sounds good to me. But other than that, if you want to, continue to hear the Balls from Ellwood show and XTinas Depravity Corner, hey, share the wealth, fuckers. If you want to send a couple of bucks and keep this ship afloating, XTina, where would they do that at? Where could they go?
They can go to CVL929 at yahoo.com on PayPal and send us a few bones.
That would be very sweet if you cats would do that. I'll send you a picture of my ass. How's that? But other than that, we don't have too much more. We're going to close the show up this week. Next week, I'm not sure what we have planned yet. It's going to be a mystery, so you're going to have to tune in and find out yourself. But other than that, I'm going to close the show. I'm going to leave you with another quick little song by the Mr. T Experience. And until next week, cats, peace and love. Peace and love. Peace and love.
To you all night, you told me your views. You made me an offer I couldn't refuse. But that don't mean a fucking thing. Just a smoke screen. One big lie, one big lie, one big lie. Try to tell us you thought it all through.